Eric Adams, who's running for mayor of this town. He's not? He's not running for... forget it then. Don't... Yesterday, Mayor Adams walked down the stairs at Gracie Mansion with a picture of his mother and the song My Way blasting in the background to announce that he is stepping down from a race he had no chance of winning whatsoever. Say what you want to say about Eric Adams. He did one thing no other New York City mayor has ever done.
To Charlie Kirk or his family. And the reason that so many people, including me, were so upset with what Jimmy Kimmel said is that he accused Charlie Kirk's murderer of being a MAGA or a right-wing American. It wasn't a joke. It was straight up disinformation. And I really wish Jimmy Kimmel had apologized for it.
Not only is Canada absolutely furious at Donald Trump and his dastardly regime, not only is Prime Minister Carney in Davos calling out Donald Trump and his regime, not only is Carney in Canada making trade deals with the rest of the world to further isolate the United States as Trump isolates itself, Canada right now is preparing military models to respond to hypothetical American invasions and how Canada...
There's nothing more satisfying than watching hypocrisy collapse under its own weight. Not through insults, not through opinions, but by simply replaying someone's own words on national television. Jimmy Kimmel didn't yell, he didn't exaggerate, he just pressed play. And what followed sent JD Vance into full defense mode and triggered a Trump meltdown so extreme that he threatened an entire TV network. I'll show you exactly how it unfolded.
Is there tension? Is it natural? And how do you kind of calm things down there?
Yeah, Laura, I don't think that there's tension. There's certainly disagreement from time to time. We're not going to agree on every single issue within an administration, but the president has been very clear.
Seems to have worked, though. Trump praised the new Japanese prime minister as a winner. He said they've become very close friends, and he told reporters he has caught more shrimp in his mouth at Benihana than any president in history, which she was impressed by. And then they had a signing ceremony to seal the deal and declare a new golden age of U.S.-Japan relations. There you go.
Would respond. And folks, this is being reported in the Globe and Mail. And you know, when they're reporting about it as well, it's kind of reached a fever pitch where they're like, okay, we can't ignore this anymore. It's just interesting, right? Because when we've been doing these reports with Midas Canada, of course, you know, Charlie Angus runs Midas Canada. There were a lot of people at first, and you would see, especially with the right-wing control of Canadian media and some of these other media entities, they'd be like, oh, and
it all starts with a promise JD Vance thought everyone would forget, a promise about free speech, a promise made before the government moved to silence a comedian for criticism, and the hypocrisy that followed was so blatant that even Vance's own supporters struggled to defend it. Let's rewind to where this house of cards began to crack.
He made Bill de Blasio look good. So there's talk that Mayor Adams might become our next ambassador to Saudi Arabia, which that would be good for Trump finally, and Eric he can be proud of representing him. As you know, over the last 10 days or so, we've been through quite an ordeal. And by we, I mean Mets fans. We have, yesterday I was wearing my Mets hat, I was wearing my Mets shirt.
Kristen, I think that I've learned my lesson on speaking for the president before he and I have actually talked about an issue.
So he would veto a federal abortion ban?
I think he would. He said that explicitly, that he would.
Charlie with his American buddy Ben, they're out there fear-mongering. This is not really going to happen. And why are you even talking about preparing for military invasions? And what does Angus mean when he talks about Canada building up a citizen reserve? What is Angus even trying? Calm down there, fellas. You're just... By the way, the same things that people were saying about Midas in 2024 when we were trying to warn people, this is what's coming. They're going to have ICE and Border Patrol invade your cities.
February 2025, the Munich Security Conference. JD Vance, just weeks into the vice presidency, stands before global leaders and delivers a crystal clear message on free speech. He accuses the previous administration of pressuring companies to silence dissent. Then he makes the promise that would come back to haunt him. Not vague, not cautious. He said the Trump administration would do precisely the opposite.
Stay Puft Marshmallow Ankles was back home at the White House tonight handing out candy to children. One of the kids was dressed as, you can see him here on the right side, as a light-up marshmallow. And watch this, because this is something Trump has done in the past. Instead of putting candy in the bag, he puts it on the kid's head. JD Vance is crushing it when it comes to policy.
How will we lower the cost of daycare?
It's such an important question, Charlie. And I think one of the things that we can do is make it easier for family models to choose, or for families to choose whatever model they want, right? So one of the ways that you might be able to relieve a little bit of pressure on people who are paying so much for daycare is make it so that maybe like grandma or grandpa wants to help.
It's going to have the Gestapo and the SS across the... Oh, you're comparing him to Hitler. You're saying he's demented and he's amazing. Oh, why would you ever say those things? Well, because it's true. Because it's objectively obvious that it's happening. And it was happening then. So here's what I want to share with you as well. First, let's talk about what Prime Minister Carney said about Canada stands by Greenland. Let's play this clip right here.
On Arctic sovereignty, we stand firmly with Greenland and Denmark and fully support.
Vance positioned Trump as the ultimate defender of the First Amendment, the protector of free expression, the antidote to censorship. And then, just 7 months later, his administration did exactly what he promised it never would. Jimmy Kimmel caught it all, and once you see the timeline, it becomes impossible to ignore. If you care about real accountability, stay with me, because this part will make you angry.
And wouldn't you know, the Mets went and did the Metsiest thing possible. They had the best record in baseball the first 2 months of the season. Then they went 38-55, but they were still in it yesterday. The final game of the year to get into the playoffs, the Reds had to lose, the Mets had to win, the Reds lost, and then the Mets lost to the Miami Marlins, which isn't even really a baseball team. It's a made-up team, and they're out of the playoffs. Poor Mr. Met tried to kill himself, but he couldn't get the noose.
Is there something wrong with speaking to world leaders?
First of all, yes. And second, yes, it's very wrong to have chats with dictators who are trying to...
their unique right to determine Greenland's future. Our commitment to NATO's Article 5 is unwavering. So we're working with our NATO allies, including the Nordic-Baltic Gate, to further secure the alliance's northern and western flanks, including through Canada's unprecedented investments in over-the-horizon radar.
September 15th, 2025. Conservative activist Charlie Kirk is murdered. A tragedy. But before facts are known, before investigations are complete, MAGA world does what it always does. They weaponize it. JD Vance appears as a guest host and immediately blames the left. Conspiracy theories explode. Claims are made about the bullets. All of it false, all of it debunked. But the narrative is locked in. And Jimmy Kimmel is watching.
First of all, Tim just said something that I agree with. I agree, and I actually think I agree with you. I actually agree with Tim Walz.
I agree with a lot of what Senator Vance said. Governor, I agree with you. I agree with that.
And I think that Governor Walz and I actually probably agreed.
Well, Trump is not going to like that at all. You're in a lot of trouble, JD. I was kind of hoping they'd ask the candidates some fun questions. Like, they used to do that. Like, is a hot dog a sandwich?
In submarines, in aircraft, and boots on the ground. Boots on the ice.
What he's saying there is everything, okay? Boots on the ground in Greenland, talking about Article 5 against the United States, building a trading relationship. He talks about trans-Pacific, transatlantic, Canada without the U.S. right there, bypassing it and bringing in 1.5 billion people together. And
that night, Kimmel says what millions of Americans are already thinking. He calls out politicians for exploiting a death. He criticizes JD Vance and Eric Trump for politicizing a tragedy and spreading misinformation. That's it. No threats, no lies, just criticism. And for that, the Trump administration moved to crush him.
Over his giant head. I have to say, I think it might be time to change the nickname from the Amazing Mets to the Mets. So the Mets are out, a disappointing season, and the Yankees are in tomorrow. The Yankees host the Red Sox. Game 1 of the American League Wild Card Series. This is the kind of welcome the Red Sox. Everyone but him is dumb. Everyone but him and this guy.
I wish that I could take you on our campaign plane and give you the perspective that I've gotten of this country in the past 7 weeks. This is the coolest, other than being a wife to this beautiful lady here and a father to our 3 kids, the greatest honor of my life has been running for this office.
What an unexpected delight this JD Vance has turned out to be.
You see how this is forming, right? European Union's deal with the Mercosur countries, with Brazil and Argentina and others there. Then you've got Carney making the move with the $1 trillion trading pact with China. You've got Carney making the deal with Europe. Like, you see the formation of what they're building as Donald Trump just wakes up one day and he's like, oh, what? You don't want to join my board of peace that has Putin and Lukashenko on it? 200% tariffs for you, France, on your...
2 days later, September 17, 2025, Brendan Carr, Trump's FCC chairman, goes on a conservative show and doesn't just attack Kimmel. He threatens ABC. He threatens Disney. He threatens every local affiliate carrying the show. Carr calls Kimmel's comments sick and makes it clear there will be consequences if action isn't taken.
He's teaching, I don't want to use the names, but big stars. And they couldn't, they were really bad. And then one of the producers came in from one of the big studios, MGM, whatever it was, and he saw this guy saying, do it this way, and he's screaming like crazy. They right in the guy's face as far. And he said, I don't think the actor can do that. The guy sees it. He said, maybe we could get this guy, but nobody ever heard of him. He was in the military. And it ended up to be one of the greatest movies because of him, largely because of him. But he was great. How good was that movie, right? Does it get too much better?
Vice President Maybelline was making the rounds, attempting to defend his boss and the chairman of the FCC with a new fairy tale even a 5-year-old wouldn't believe.
Well, there are 2 things. First of all, I'd like them to tell me exactly what Brendan Carr did to have Jimmy Kimmel taken off the air, because number 1, he is currently on the air, and to the extent that he isn't in certain stations, it's because he's not funny and because his ratings aren't very good.
Champagne and wine and tariffs for you, just like a madman. It's ridiculous. I want to bring in Charlie Angus, leader of Midas Canada, leader of the Midas Canada Resistance Tour. Charlie, let's talk about this, and let's specifically where to start. I guess let's focus on the military. We'll get to Davos, but let's talk about the military plans. What you're hearing from your sources as well.
Okay, when you see on the front page of the Globe and Mail.
This wasn't advice. It wasn't commentary. It was government pressure. A federal official appointed by the president threatening broadcast licenses worth hundreds of millions of dollars because a comedian criticized Trump's supporters. ABC insiders told CNN this was a serious existential threat, and it worked. Within hours, stations began pulling Kimmel's show. ABC announced an indefinite suspension.
I didn't mean to interrupt your bullshit. Go on.
So I actually think that we should be having a conversation about whether these companies are serving the public interest. That's actually totally separate from the Jimmy Kimmel issue, because nothing happened to him. He's currently on the air, and to the extent that he's not, it's because advertisers don't like him because his ratings aren't very good.
My ratings aren't very good. Last time I checked, your ratings were somewhere between a hair in your salad and chlamydia. In 3.5 years, I'm not the one who's going to be doing mascara tutorials on YouTube.
And an article by Bob Fife. I'm just going to say, the United States has Bob Woodward. We have Bob Fife. When Bob Fife used to call me in Parliament and say, Charlie, I want a straight answer, man. You didn't mess around with Bob Fife. So when Bob Fife calls into Canada's military establishment and says, I want to know what your plans are, someone's going to talk to him. So what are those plans? Well, clearly, Canada military, and I think we've all been thinking this was happening, but we didn't hear anything because you just don't talk about this kind of stuff. They're planning
6 days of silence. a comedian taken off the air because the government applied pressure, and Donald Trump celebrated like it was a championship win. On Truth Social, he mocked Kimmel's talent, cheered the suspension, and called it great news for America. According to the president, silencing a critic was something to applaud.
Have to look forward to in New York. And this is golf. It was the U.S. versus Europe at Bethpage Black on Long Island this weekend for the Ryder Cup. There's an Irish golfer, a guy named Rory McIlroy, who's known as one of the nicest guys in golf. Somehow his round on Saturday turned into a scene from Unhappy Gilmore.
That bunker's looking tasty. Guys, shut the up.
A military resistance to the United States in the case of a Trump invasion. And what they're expecting is that they will pull the military back. The United States Army will move in. If this happened, this is how it's going to game out. If the United States crosses the border, they will probably take all the key defensive positions within the first week, maybe. But that's because Canadian military will be moving out into the field.
If you believe this kind of authoritarian behavior should be exposed, support independent journalism, because what happened next is why they panicked. Once Kimmel was suspended, people remembered JD Vance's Munich speech. The clip resurfaced, side by side, Vance promising to protect free speech in February, his administration silencing a critic in September. The contradiction went viral.
Celebrities are rallying to his cause, saying this is a First Amendment assault being carried out by the FCC, Brendan Carr, and by the President of the United States himself. And to that, you say?
Well, there are two things. First of all, I'd like them to tell me exactly what Brendan Carr did to have Jimmy Kimmel taken off the air, because number one, he is currently on the air, and to the extent that he isn't in certain stations, it's because he's not funny and because his ratings aren't very good.
Presidential debate between two men who couldn't be much more different. One of them called Donald Trump a reprehensible idiot who shouldn't be president. The other is Tim Walz. Walz and Vance, they stuck to the issues. They showed each other a lot of respect. It was very boring. I'll be honest. I like these better with Trump. I really do. I don't know that anyone's vote was changed tonight. Watching a vice presidential debate
for what they said is going to be a Mujahideen-style counterinsurgency with the objective of inflicting mass casualties. That's staggering. We're talking about our next-door neighbor. Canadian and American military and Navy and Air Force have worked together for 80-plus years, but now we're talking about the gaming out. The mass casualties from a counterinsurgency war. And I will say, Ben,
journalists and civil liberties groups noticed immediately. Vance lectures Europe about free speech, then presides over government pressure to silence critics at home. The hypocrisy was so blatant that even some Republicans couldn't defend it. So JD Vance did what politicians often do when caught. He denied it. He claimed it was all just a joke.
There's something else that's important here, Laura, which is that these broadcast companies, ABC, NBC, CBS, they enjoy the public airwaves because they serve the public interest. So I actually think that we should be having a conversation about whether these companies are serving the public interest. That's actually totally separate from the Jimmy Kimmel issue because nothing happened to him. He's currently on the air, and to the extent that he's not, it's because advertisers don't like him because his ratings aren't very good.
My ratings aren't very good. Last time I checked, your ratings were somewhere between a hair in your salad and chlamydia. In 3.5 years, I'm not the one who's going to be doing mascara tutorials on YouTube.
Canada has a lot of experience. They put us in Kandahar, in the heart of Taliban country. There's a lot of experience. Canadians have been on the front lines of Ukraine, technically as trainers, but obviously getting trained. The fact that the Globe and Mail is putting this out there now, as Prime Minister Carney makes this dramatic speech, this speech in Davos, I think, is the most dramatic geopolitical speech I've ever heard from a Canadian Prime Minister because it's going to draw heat.
Vance went on television and insisted there was zero government pressure, zero action, zero interference. But that wasn't true. CNN fact-checked him immediately. FCC Chairman Brendan Carr didn't just joke, he made formal, serious remarks pressuring Disney, ABC, and their affiliates. Vance left that part out, and that omission tells you everything you need to know.